This week on the agenda, the innovation economy. Is new technology the only way to ensure future growth? And how can it be harnessed? The innovation economy is a new theory that suggests that knowledge, entrepreneurship, technology and collaboration are the key drivers of future economic growth. But what does that really mean in practice? How can innovation be fostered? And why are countries like China, at the recent Third Plenum, placing it front and centre in their economic plans? Joining me now to consider those questions and more is Doherty, Head of International Trade and Investment at the World Economic Forum. Sean, thanks ever so much for coming on the agenda. Now, you know what, there's been so much catastrophising about the future of world trade, and we've had a taste of some of the shocks to the system, haven't we, with things, political upheaval, climate events, global pandemics. Against that backdrop, why do you think that innovation is the only way forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely. I guess when you have disruption and conflict, that's usually due to the old ways not working any longer. And so you really do need new approaches and innovation to find a way out of the situation you find yourself in. And I think particularly in dynamic situations like this, you really need adaptive and resilient systems. Now, of course, multilateral policy is there to try and help the world adopt, but that takes a while. And so quite often you need technology and business processes which can react much more quickly in order to help you find solutions. At the World Economic Forum, we work on something called Trade Tech, which is about looking at the technology which can be used to make trade work better. So that might be, data sharing so that you can help businesses better respond to disruptions, to better collaborate and be more efficient.
How do you see innovation connecting economies in this more efficient way you talk about, but also in a way that is sustainable and still inclusive?
Well, I mean, a lot of innovation is exactly about connecting people, and that's been the, I guess, major innovation field of the last century or so, the whole ICT revolution. And of course, it aims at greater efficiency and greater sustainability, ultimately because that's what people want. Now, how this plays out, I guess, is in many cases, it's about taking people out of the loop for the more repetitive or uncomfortable tasks and freeing them up to be more creative and take on the decision-making tasks. So rather than having to inspect every container or coordinate every small transaction, they're able to spend their time working on training exporters to be able to be greener or expanding credit opportunities to a greater number of people. And I think good trade tech really optimizes logistics. It cuts down the friction in transactions, and ultimately it improves market transparency. Because traceability innovations, including distributed ledgers, for example, are something which are very useful in the end if you want to have greener supply chains, which do depend on a certain level of knowledge of what's happening within those supply chains. And, finally, I'd say digital platforms are extremely useful at helping smaller players to be involved in global trade. It increases access.
Well, you've talked about the digital economy there. You've mentioned blockchain and technology, but it also sounds like it's not just about that. So how would you describe the innovation economy?
Well, I think the innovation economy is one which creates incentives to innovate. It's one which has platforms which enable collaboration between the many players in the system. It has regulations which adapt to new ways of doing things. Ultimately, it's an economy which is dynamic, which is data-driven, which is collaborative. It's one that thrives on new technology.
OK, so which sectors, which regions are ripe for this transformation?
Well, I'd say developing economies tend to have fewer entrenched legacy systems. And so sometimes it's easier to drive innovative transformation in these economies. But on the other hand, developed economies, of course, have deep pools of skills. They have existing digital infrastructure. to build on, and that that allows them to deploy new technologies when they want to do so. And also sometimes they have a greater incentive to do so because you have higher labor costs in developed economies more generally. Now, when we look at different sectors, clearly those industries which are most dependent on cooperation, and so that includes trade, it includes international payments, are kind of among the industries which have most to gain from innovation, from new collaborative systems. But at the same time, they're also sometimes the hardest to change, exactly because you need to get so many actors working together and collaborating to put in place a new way of doing things.
Well, you've talked about sectors a little bit, but when you talked about regions, you're quite general in terms of the advantages for developing and developed economies. Go on, name some names. If you could helicopter right now into a particular country, a particular region, where would it be and why?
Well, I think smaller economies often have the advantage of agility. A specific example, United Arab Emirates, Singapore, they're the classic ones. They're able to reform rapidly. On the other hand, bigger economies, do have the potential for experimentation at the municipal level, at the state level. You mentioned China in the introduction. Obviously, it's been able to take advantage of bottom-up innovation in a number of cases. And again, China is a major trading nation, and so it's been at the heart of a lot of innovation in trade, not least in driving port efficiency, for example.
So would you say that China is an example of somewhere that's innovating well? I mean, at the recent Third Plenum, they placed innovation at the very core of its economic programme.
I think it's definitely been able to do that in a number of cases, particularly in physical logistics, just given the size of the Chinese trading economy and the kind of dynamic ability to experiment in different regions. We've definitely seen a lot of innovation coming out of China, and clearly, with volume comes that ability to build critical mass very quickly, and then the rest of the world will follow.
So what can the rest of the world, what can other economies learn from China's approach?
I'd say innovation works well when you're open to ideas. Taking another example, economies like Switzerland, where the World Economic Forum is based, have been good at this, at being open to ideas from abroad. Of course, it's important to be able to work with others. There are plenty of examples of good innovation only getting to a certain stage because it then gets locked into a sort of technological island when companies or countries haven't been able to spread that technology to others. So indeed, at the World Economic Forum, really the heart of what we try to do is to help people learn from what's happening elsewhere and to share their own insights on what would be a productive direction for the global economy in terms of innovation.
I do want to zone in a little bit on costs because it isn't a level playing field. So how do you stoke innovation in a universal way?
Well, look, that's absolutely right. Costs can be prohibitive. And I think the first thing to do really in innovation is try and drive down the costs in generals, and that can often work through modularity, putting in place standards and so forth. But then exactly as you say, it's also important to provide support perhaps to those members of the network that need it, developing economies or smaller businesses, and they may need education, they may need training, they ultimately may need a kind of access to lower cost technology in order to move forward. But I think it's very important to do this because particularly where you have network effects, ultimately it's in everybody's interest for the whole system to move forward. And if you have a couple of islands of people who haven't been able to adapt the new system, then that holds everybody back. So that's important for us to kind of work together to jointly move to more innovative, better ways of doing things.
I wonder, how could entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers and regulators all be better linked? What would you like to see happening?
Well, I think going back to this trade tech example, clearly, we're trying to convene dialogue between innovators themselves, between the regulators. We're trying to matchmake potential investments. We're trying to structure the sandbox, but absolutely, we need to get much better at kind of really building these right ecosystems, these communities which bring together the investors, which bring together the innovators, which bring together the large existing players in the field, which bring together ultimately the customers, the regulators, to try and accelerate the change.
We've talked a little bit about the pace of all this and how going fast isn't necessarily best. But, you know, this does need to be a global effort. I wonder what your outlook is for the innovation economy in the medium term and also in the longer term.
Well, I think local experimentation is always going to be crucial. But then what we need to do is we need to link up the innovations which are occurring in different parts of the world, different sectors, and help them to work together. And we need ways for people to learn from what has happened in other settings, so that we don't just go around in circles. You know, we can build on innovation, build on each other's shoulders. So I'd say in the medium to long term, I definitely expect to see real change in how innovation happens in trade and investment, and we'll have perhaps less of a focus on setting rules which everybody has to follow, just a little bit more focus on how we can enable innovation and through collaboration, through mutual benefit, such that you know, people who are willing to take that innovative risk are able to thrive.
Still to come here on the agenda, a real example of innovation. We talk to Serbia's Minister for Technological Development, Jelena Begović.
We are all connected. Across borders, across continents, connected by ideas, a shared humanity. Stay connected.
Welcome back to the agenda. We've heard about the principles and the importance of the innovation economy, but what does it look like in practice? And what are countries doing to embrace new technology and drive innovation? Joining me now from Belgrade is Serbia's Minister for Science, Technological Development and Innovation, Jelena Begović. Thanks so much for coming on the agenda. Now, Serbia now has the fastest growing ICT industry in the Western Balkans. How have you achieved that?
Well, actually, definitely it didn't happen by accident. It was a strategical decision of the government to invest in the field that was organically growing in Serbia due to very long and successful history in STEM education, very strong mathematics and very strong IT, let's say, educational sector. And then in alignment with all the events and happenings that were happening all around the world, we got numerous startup companies in this area. But then really in a positive way, the government intervened with a lot of assistance in financing, but also voting on a lot of incentives for R&D, particularly in ICT sector. So in 10 years, we added 100 times larger exports. So this is now, the ICT industry became the largest export industry in Serbia, near 4 billion euros per year, with a growth rate between 25 and 30% on annual basis. Yeah. And what is most important is that we attracted the biggest players in the gaming industry, in the ICT industry, and they're now opening big R&D centers in Serbia. So this is a great opportunity for our young experts to find their job and to grow their careers in Serbia, from Microsoft to Rivian to Continental, UBS, I mean, a lot of companies that are now employing tens of thousands of our young experts in ICT industry.
I want to talk about those jobs and the skills in a moment, but I also want to talk about how you've also become a bit of a hub for artificial intelligence. Is that all part of the big strategy too? I'm wondering, you know, how that's happened and why now?
Absolutely. We did recognize our former Prime Minister Ms. Ana Brnabić, now the Speaker of the Parliament, with her team really had a vision, which was a visionary idea, and that is how to get on board on AI, which was which was developing extremely fast at the time. So in 2019, we were already we already finished our first strategy on artificial intelligence. Nowadays, we are writing the new one. This is how this area and field is really expanding and changing on a daily basis. In 2019, the first strategy, then we opened in 2020 the Institute of Artificial Intelligence, which was also one of the first institutes in broader region, I would say on a European level. And then also we adopted ethical guidance for responsible development of AI. So we were in alignment with the most developed countries at that moment, and then we joined the Global Partnership for Artificial Intelligence alongside with 29 really most developed countries in the world. And we got the opportunity to chair this organization starting from this year and the next 2 years. So this is how we envision Serbia to get on board on the new technologies, and we can really provide amazing experts, and we want to be a center of creativity in this area.
So this is all part of your smart specialisation of Serbia vision, I suppose. You've mentioned some of the big investments in R&D. So let's talk about that $182 million investment to create an innovation district. I mean, are you thinking that that could be maybe Southeast Europe's Silicon Valley? Just describe what this technology park is going to look like.
Absolutely. This is our plan. I mean, to become a visible a spot on some global map of AI and ICT. So in the city of Kragujevac, we built a data center which got the tier 4 level of security. So this is one of 9 data centers in Europe with such a sophisticated level of security and business model. And we already provided a supercomputer, NVIDIA supercomputer, that is offered to our scientific community, but also to the startup community, so it can boost their activities. But our next step was to build a science district and innovation district around this data center. So this is a huge investment, and we already started the building of the first building. So the idea is to gather the experts, the students, the innovators, the startups, and to build a vibrant community gathered around ICT, particularly within the ICT security, robotics, and artificial intelligence. And this also opens the door for much larger international cooperation, and at the end, the attraction of this type of experts. And we want to bring them to Serbia and to become, you said it nicely, a Silicon Valley of Europe.
All of this sounds great, but of course it's going to take money and financing to make it happen. And I know you've got government grants, and there are also other international institutions that are wading in, as well as international companies. But the EBRD has a new country strategy for Serbia, and I wonder what difference do you think that's going to make to the sector?
Yes, they adopted a new strategy for the development of the Republic of Serbia until 2028, focused on SMEs, so small and medium enterprises, their transformation. Then the second focus is also on green and renewable energies, and also focus, the third one, which is quite important, it's collaboration, regional collaboration. So on the renewables, the focus will be on wind and sun, but also all the innovative potential of Serbia that can be focused on these fields will be supported by this strategy. For Serbia, it's quite important to start a much stronger path towards renewable energy, and also all the innovations in business models, but also technical and technological innovations. So we build a brighter and more sustainable future for our community. In addition, startups will also have their part in this strategy, and they will be provided with financial support, but also support in skills and transformation towards, let's say, circular economy, which is becoming quite important for the global economy.
And in terms of helping those startups and those fledgling businesses to set up operations, is that going to come from Serbia's Innovation Fund that was set up back in 2006?
Yes, it was established in 2006, but it really became one of the two most important funding mechanisms of science and innovation. We have a science fund just focused on science, but Innovation Fund is focused on private sector, on small and medium enterprises, including, of course, startups with good innovative ideas, with the potential of IP protection, IP creation, and the final idea is to put together academia along with the SMEs for the creation of new value. Really, the Innovation Fund is growing. It's becoming more and more important, I would say, on a regional level. Only in 2023, they invested over 22 million euros in different programs, supportive financial programs for creation of new ideas. But along that, we also established first two VC funds where the government matched with 5 million euros. And those two funds will be focused on our startup community, including one of those funds will be just targeting the biotech companies, which are becoming one of the major strategical orientations of Serbia, along with artificial intelligence.
I've been thinking about President Xi's recent visit to Serbia, and I wonder how much foreign investment into innovation and advanced tech in Serbia is coming from China.
Well, actually, I mean, me personally, I started amazing collaboration with Chinese partners from BGI during the COVID, where we really established long-term collaboration with this company. And starting from there, we made a much bigger network of friendships and collaborations with the Chinese counterparts. We built together two Huayan laboratories, which are still in the function of our medical healthcare system, that are providing us with BSL-2 plus laboratories. And that was a big upgrade for our healthcare system. In parallel, we built together the first sequencing center and Center for Bioinformatics. They opened the R&D center in Belgrade, employing our young ICT experts for the development of different algorithms for bioinformatics. And then during the visit of the President Xi Jinping, we now broaden our collaboration and spread it to collaboration on science and innovation in space. So we want to be on board on the lunar station that is being built by Chinese colleagues, but also we want to explore the possibilities of innovation, technological development, and science in space exploration for the peaceful purposes. And the third MOU that was signed is dealing with sustainable development goals, or very concrete MOU on the poverty and how China and Serbia together can help world to fight the poverty using new technologies, particularly in agri-tech field, which is quite strongly developed here in Serbia, thanks to the establishment of Institute Bioscience, which is the only institute center of excellence outside European Union, dedicated to digitalization of agriculture and development of biotech and biosensors and its application in agriculture. So we see a lot of connectivity between our two countries, and I think that ahead of us are amazing days of collaboration and advancements, because only through collaboration together we can face the big challenges that the world is facing.
And what about skills? What about jobs? Where do you see the talent coming from? Is it going to be homegrown, or are you going to be importing that too?
Well, with a big success in ICT industry, we have realized that when you have a good ecosystem, when you have strong tax incentives, when you have a good environment for living and building a career, then instead of brain drain, you get a brain gain. And that will happen in Serbia during past several years in ICT industry. This is why the government of Republic of Serbia supported, for instance, the Bio4 project, but also innovation district projects, the building of science technology parks all around Serbia. So we build infrastructure, we build policy environment, we built a good ecosystem, so people decide to come to Serbia and to build their careers. So we are expecting, again, to get the brain drain in these, let's say, strategical fields. Nevertheless, we have around 230,000 students per year. More than 50% are in STEM fields, which give us opportunity to really build a good, strong, and expertise workforce for the Serbian future projects. Also, the region is quite important. Serbia is definitely the regional leader in new technologies, so we do expect, and we are seeing a lot of experts coming from the region, and we are now broadening this to Europe, but also the whole world. And I hope that we will see more colleagues coming also from China that will join us in the building of a new technological hub here in Serbia.
And just briefly, Serbia was one of the first countries in the region to sign up to the so-called innovation imperative. Where do you hope to see that driving Serbia in the future?
Definitely, we have recognized that innovations are, I mean, from my perspective, the biggest chance for us as humankind to survive, because we are facing global challenges from health to food, from environment to loss of biodiversity, from energy transition to overpopulation. So we need science. We need science for the novelty. We need science for the innovations. We need smart and applicable innovations, so we can really deal with these challenges on global level, because these challenges are really tackling every single individual on this planet. So we have to recruit all the bright minds, all the entrepreneurs, all the young people that can help us to build more resilient and more sustainable future. And this is how we see innovation, and the government definitely recognized the potential of innovation, not only in economical, but also for the growth of our society as a whole and for the growth of whole planet as a whole.
Jelena Begović, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can watch every episode of The Agenda in full on CGTN Europe's YouTube channel. And for exclusive extra content from me, my guests and the rest of the team, don't forget to check out @The Agenda Show on TikTok. Coming up on a future agenda, what can be done to tackle what's being called the greatest threat to global public health, obesity? But for now, from me, Juliet Mann, and from all the Agenda team here in London, goodbye.